All right.
Nice lighting.
I don't have a Scooby.
Yeah, you got it all set up. We're good.
We got there in the end. All right. Hello. Part 2. We're back.
We are back.
Unfiltered. Jigna's come through for another episode. How you doing, lovely?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be back.
It's a little bit of a level up from last time, isn't it?
Yeah, no. I love it. There's like literally 5 cameras looking at me right now. I don't even know where to look.
Now, thank you for coming through. Always said we'll do another one, and definitely want to get into these topics that you've been talking about on Instagram a bit, and just let you take the floor, because I thought after the last episode I got a lot of good feedback from, albeit it was audio, I got a lot of good feedback from people saying that they resonated with the message that you said. So I feel like if it works, it works. So I definitely want to hear more about all the hot topics that are going on with you right now. We don't have to go into the details, but take us off.
So many hot topics. What have we been talking about recently? I've actually been doing a lot of videos about family relationships.
Yep.
I think in the South Asian culture, there's so much, I don't even know what I would call it, but there's so much expectation around how you should act with family members, how they should treat you, how you should treat them. It's almost like there's this, people turn a blind eye to kind of narcissistic behavior, being treated horribly. And it's something that I've been aware of for a very, very long time. I've never really spoken about it on my Instagram until recently, because you never know with these topics. And even now I still get scared to talk about a topic sometimes, because I'm like, oh, am I going to get trolled? But with this one, I was like, no, it's an important topic. And like with everything, I was like, if at least one person can relate to it, then that's good. I'm going to go ahead and do it. And so I started doing a couple of videos on kind of difficult family relationships, and just around how a lot of the time we put up with behavior that we wouldn't accept from anyone else. But because they're family, we're told to ignore it, we're told to accept it, we're told to carry on as normal. And whilst you're doing that, it takes a really big hit on your mental health. And I think over time, I was like, wait, why do we do this? What does the word family even mean, right? Because to me, family means like unconditional love, support. It's just, being able to feel comfortable around people, being treated nicely. And I just think family is just the word family is used in completely the wrong context. And so, that's why I started doing quite a lot of topics around that, around, toxic in-laws, which got a lot of feedback on Instagram, actually. I think a lot of people related to it, but then you also get people that are like, oh, well, what about the daughter-in-law herself? And, fair comment. I'm not saying it's always the in-laws. These things go both ways. But there's a lot of stuff that people turn a blind eye to, that people do not talk about enough.
Yeah, and it's mad, because I did this conversation, or a similar conversation, with Ange about narcissistic traits. We went into like families and stuff, and she just blew my mind. I was thinking, that's actually very scary. Like when you break it down, like some of the things you should just be told to do or follow just based on, because I'm your uncle, or because I'm your aunt, and I'm like, yeah, it doesn't really work that way anymore, but I get it. And it can get quite toxic when you're then forced into like not comfortable situations just based on what tradition and culture say. And I hear you. So what's really toxic that's bothering you at the moment?
I think it's being, I guess, not having a relationship with someone who's a family member, or not having any contact with them, but then having the expectation to, when you see them, or when they're going to be around, or, when something happens in your life, there's an expectation to tell them. And it's like,
talking about like weddings and stuff.
Yeah, weddings, family events. And it's just like, I haven't spoken to you in like 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, you're not a part of my life. Why should I tell you about great things that are happening?
Yeah.
Why should I make an effort when, you don't even speak to me? We don't speak to each other. And it's almost like, but it's family, or she's family, or he's family, or no, you've got to go and say this, and you've got to go and say hello, and you've got to tell them, things that are going on in your life. And it's just a bit strange. Like, the whole concept of it is strange. It's almost like it kind of plays into this whole thing around putting on this show and putting up this image and showing to people in the South Asian community that like, oh, I have all these great things going on, and this is everything that I've achieved. It's like, why do you need to tell people who don't care? Let's be honest. These people do not care. Otherwise, they would have asked you how you are over the last 5 years.
Honestly, it's terrible because I have badgered on about this to like family and friends in the past. We have this mindset back in the day where you had to invite. Let's look weddings as an example. They used to. I think one of my cousins had his wedding was like 1,000 people turned up, and it was like, yeah, bro. Honestly, I didn't know half the people that were there, kind of thing. And it's like, if I look at it right now, whenever I get married, and I had these conversations with girls I was kind of like dating, I don't think I'd invite half the family members that like are supposed to be there. Like, I'm even thinking like some like close second cousins and stuff, like purely based on the fact that like, yeah, we might have a relationship, but at the same time, I've grown up with my work colleagues, which might sound bad to a lot of people. I've grown up with friends, and like, if I feel this is meant to be my celebration, I want to celebrate with the people that I'm quite like dear to versus you because you're my dad's first cousin's daughters, etc. Like, cool, sweet, I get it, but like, I don't mean to sound rude or anything, but it's a wasted invitation in my opinion. Especially if you're paying all of that money for an event, like you want to make sure you have an event where it's like, when I get married, it's gonna be kicking, like the party, reception, all of that vibe. I'm not here to have like, no offense, like loads of Indians there that just want Bollywood music the whole night. Like, yo, that's not me, kind of thing. Like, respectfully, depending on who I marry, she may want obviously a different opinion, and we'll compromise on that front. But like, I'm not here flipping listening to Bollywood music the whole night at reception just because it appeals to everyone. Yo, it's my party.
Yeah.
It's Burna Boy when I walk down the aisle. What are you talking about? Like, this is the vibe we're going for. Don't ever get it twisted that I have to do what you tell me to do.
I hear you. Do you know how many people there were at my wedding? 1,500. It was like a circus. Do you know how expensive it was? Honestly, I feel like this is like one of my biggest life regrets. It was so expensive, and I just had the worst day. I didn't enjoy it at all. Like, the whole thing was for everybody else. The whole wedding was a show. It was for everyone else's enjoyment. I didn't even get to speak to like most of the people that were there. Like, barely got to say hi to my friends. It was not an enjoyable day. And I just think, God, if I ever got married again, there'd be like 10 people there. And even then, that's like, literally keeping it down. But this is another thing. Actually, I want to talk about this. Can we talk about this whole pressure within South Asian community, or just, to have this huge, huge wedding that is well beyond, what you're able to, afford or put together. But again, the whole thing's a show, right? Why do we still do this?
I feel like some people like the element of it. So I've spoken to women who generally have envisioned this wedding being the most memorable day of their lives, etc., etc. Fine, cool. When you have kids, then talk to me then, kind of thing. But I get it from some sort of perspective. Like, if you've been looking forward to this day, etc., etc., fine. But I do agree with you. Does it have to be so extravagant? But then again, it depends on like whether or not you actually have an input into it. Me personally, if I'm thinking of it right now, if I was to get, when I get married, I would personally look at it as, for like the Indian part, maybe invite a lot more of, let's say, the family members who possibly want to be involved in that traditional area. Come reception, you lot got to go. And that's not to be rude or anything. Like, respectfully, it's cool, but like, yeah, nah.
Do you think though that a lot of it is for Instagram rather than because they actually want it? Do you not feel that a lot of, what you see these days, it's about, having that wedding for Instagram. It's about having, that content. It's about, I feel like it's less and less about the couple. It's less and less about a lot of what they actually want, and more so how it will look.
Yeah. I see like hashtags and all of that about like the bride and the groom's name together and stuff like that. I hear it. I feel like the way the world's changed, like, I think back in the day, it'd be like whatever we can record on video and we'll watch it over and over again, and then DVDs and stuff like that. And now Instagram's a new platform, or TikToks, and we're doing all of these. Here's my first drink of the night. Here's my second drink of the night.
But that stuff's fun, though. Like, that stuff is fun. And I get, like, your guest taking picture, or even having a wedding hashtag. That's cute, so you can see everything. What I mean is doing things to show that you're having the best wedding.
Yeah. And, like, I feel like this also creates a little bit of insecurities if you feel your wedding isn't up to scratch to someone else's.
Yeah.
It is a weird one. But then like, I'm looking at it. If I'm getting married, it's between me and my wife.
Yeah.
Like as long as we're having a good time. If this is what you kind of want, like cool, fine. Like if it makes you smile, etc., great. But on the flip side of it, like if it's not necessary, then cool. Like I've always said, I wanted a destination wedding,
Yeah.
and not any of this like have to wear traditional Indian clothing. Like I would happily do it in a more chilled Indian outfit in the sun, white beach. Whoever can make it, great. And if you can't, look, we're gonna get it on Zoom, whatever. You lot can just tune in that way. It's fine. Like
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a better vibe for me personally than actually having to go through the whole drama of everyone there, pictures of people you probably haven't seen in like years. Like, but it's
No, I agree. Like weddings should be what you want them to be, right? It should be about the couple. It
Yeah.
should be about you two together and what you want to make of this day or a couple of days, whether you want to do that abroad or whether you want to do it at home. I just think that I've had a lot of conversations with people where they're talking about things that they want to do, and it's not necessarily because they want to do it. It's solely with the view of, okay, well, how will this look on Instagram?
yeah.
How will this look on, how can I show to people on Instagram that I'm having the best event rather than focusing on actually just having fun?
Are you talking about this from people who are, let's say, into their social media game or just general people?
Just general people, like both. Yeah. Like I get when you're in if you're a content creator or
Yeah.
I understand that that's part of your job. So you do have that aspect
Yeah.
of creating content. But I think even just like people who aren't into that,
Yeah.
don't have a huge following, it's almost like weddings are seen as, the biggest achievement that you can have in your life. And so like you have to now show everyone, like it could be someone who, rarely ever posts content, but they will plan their wedding around getting the best Instagram
Yeah.
post to show people on Instagram that I'm having the best wedding and I'm now married and I'm happy and I'm, living my best life.
Yeah.
But that's not really what weddings should be about.
Yeah. I understand the moment and capturing the moment, but I do feel what you're saying right there because I feel like it adds on further pressure moving forward. If you're not married or if you are with someone, like, shit, yeah, we need to get there as soon as possible because, that's living the best life. And like, I want to be a little bit of that. And really and truly, it's, yeah. I feel like also with people posting stuff up, it raises the price of what a wedding possibly should be.
Yeah.
In versus like, you have a budget. Okay, cool. You stick to it. But if you've seen someone wearing this beautiful outfit, you're like, yeah, I need to have a bit of that. That's a bit of me. Or they just had this 360 camera, or they've got this ice cream machine, etc., etc. And it's like, relax. Like if it's not within your scope, that's cool. Like you don't need to have all of these aesthetically pleasing things just for the sake of it. Like do what works for you.
Yeah.
If you've got connections, like great, use it. But if you don't force yourself to actually have to like appeal to everyone because really and truly it's your day with your close ones and you just want to celebrate that.
Yeah.
My best friend just got married a couple of weeks ago, and one of my best mates from uni got married a few months ago. Very, very different wedding.
Yeah.
Both are only children, but you can just see like one was it was an event, but it was a more humbling event. It was great, like completely. I don't know, like one of the best weddings I've ever been to. It was lit. Not gonna lie, one of the best weddings I've ever been to. But my best friend's wedding, completely different. Not necessarily on a nearer scale to the first wedding earlier in the year, but at the same time, still very cute, very intimate. And it was like, you know what? That's what it kind of should be about. And if you are getting that feeling from it, regardless of the cameras, etc., sick. But if you're not, why are you doing it? I feel like it can be quite draining because I hardly get to see the bride and groom on a wedding day.
No, I say this from the angle because I was that person. I planned my whole entire wedding and it was this huge like week-long affair, and it was so it was so lavish and it was so expensive and it was all for show. Like, let me be real with you.
How many events?
Oh, there was, I don't know, there must have been like 5 or 6 events, like maybe more than that.
I don't get it.
7. There were so many events.
Yeah.
I did the whole thing for show. I was honestly so miserable on the day. Like, none of it was for me. I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I did it being like, oh yeah, this will look great and this will look great. And so and even, you know, in my marriage, I would like post pictures all the time to show that like, oh yeah, I'm like happily married in this, you know, relationship. But inside I was really miserable. So it's like, it's almost like I say it now from actually what matters.
Yeah.
And now when I look back on it, like, you know, I'm 10 years on and I'm like, God, what was I doing? What a waste of money. What could that money have like gotten me today?
Yeah. No, it's a very, very odd, weird place to be in. But again, like, I'm all for living in the moment too, so I can appreciate people wanting to like just make it lavish and flamboyant, etc. At the same time, you're about to spend the rest of your life with this person. Like, if it really doesn't mean that much, man, go treat yourself somewhere else, man. Go spend a month abroad with your partner. Go to Bali and just rent out a penthouse for a month and just live your best life, like that kind of thing. But again, each to their own. I feel like it's very, very different opinions, because I feel like from the mindset of a guy personally, and I'm only talking for myself, but if I try and think of my friends as well, I don't really give a shit. One of my best mates got married during COVID, and it was like, bro, honestly, seeing everyone else right now, 30 people only, nah. It was a lot more easy, a lot more chilled, versus like having 600-700 people turn up and you have to manage that, and then hiring wedding planners and photographers, and this is your list for when you're taking your photo. Oh, it's just
Stressful.
But there is an element of like, I think it is cute, but there is like that social media part of it, which is a bit.
Yeah.
I do feel you. You're not a fan at all, then.
No, I'm not saying that. Like, I am all about I love going to weddings.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I love going to weddings. I love celebrating people. Like, I love love,
Yeah.
right? So I love seeing it. But I just think like a lot of people that I speak to when they're in their planning process, I think their biggest fear initially is, will this look good enough on Instagram? And
Yeah.
I just think that shouldn't be your first question when you're planning a wedding.
Yeah.
Like I said, like, everyone has different budgets, everyone has different visions, everyone wants different things, and everyone should do what they want to do. But I just think the intention behind it should be because you as a couple want to have the best day.
Yeah.
Rather than
100%.
because like I want it to look great on Instagram. I think that's where my like view is.
Nah, I feel you. I'm thinking of people, but I'm not sure whether or not I should like go down that category where I'm like, yeah, you probably are trying to go from that Instagram angle. But look, it's the way the world's going. Do I agree with it? No. But like, until something I feel new comes out, or until people just change up the scope of like how you should get married, etc., and not really making it about what the social media impact is, but versus your happiness towards the day. Yeah, but we live in this kind of world, no?
Yeah, that's the thing. I know. I guess it's just like everything these days feels like it's for social media, or it feels like it's for like online. I don't know.
Bit like my podcast, it's just for social media.
No, but this is like an interesting conversation for people.
Yeah.
You know, there's like, you know, but no, I think there's definitely like pros and cons to social media. I think it is great in terms of, you know, connecting with great people, finding out information, all that type of good stuff. But I think it can create that kind of anxiety around, you know, showing a certain image.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part of it that I don't really like about social media, or I don't really agree with.
I feel like it plays a part in regards to like what you kind of want to post. Back in the day, like when Instagram first came out, a photo was just hashtags only. There was no although there were only likes and comments. There was no comments, but it was just like slowly it started to evolve. And back then I'd post the most random of things, and it was like, it's just posting on the gram for the sake of it kind of thing. And then like now, as you move on, it's the case of I am reluctant to post, let's say, an Instagram piece of content which is just text and it's like a carousel. Why? Because at the moment I'm posting so much stuff about reels and that kind of shit. It's like, well, what's the algorithm saying? And I feel like that's a bit detrimental as well, because it's like, well, you kind of want to do what everyone else is doing so that you stay relevant, but at the same time, like, is it really being you? I don't know.
Authenticity wins. I will tell you that. Is that like that's what's so hard, right? Within the Instagram world or within TikTok or whatever it is, you're not in control of it. There's an algorithm behind it. And when you try and understand the algorithm, like, we never will.
It changes.
It changes all the time. We'll never know what does well and what doesn't. Like, there's so many times I've literally spent hours and hours making like a video or making content, and it will honestly just do so bad on Instagram. And I'm like, Or like, even though I don't want to be disheartened,
Yeah.
I'm a bit like, oh, did people not like the video? Or
Yeah.
like, oh, maybe I should have spent like 4 hours on it. But at the same time, it's like, well, actually, I liked making that video.
Yeah.
Or I liked the video, right? So actually, it's fine if no one else likes it. I like it.
Yeah.
And I think it's trying to remember that.
I had it where I've realized it now, and I think another podcaster mentioned it as well. When I do my solo episodes, because I've got time to use and I'm able to make the most of it, I will just sit in this room and maybe do, let's say, 2-3 hours of recording, chop that up into, let's say, maybe 8-9 different episodes, 10-minute, 20-minute episodes. That shit does not like sit with anyone. Like the views and the engagement is poor compared to, let's say, when I do something with a guest on the show. And I'm just thinking to myself, if I just regurgitate everything I've just said there with that guest, I guarantee it possibly will. I don't understand it, but it can be quite demoralizing because I've spent time trying to get here, record, crop it all up, thinking, all right, okay, cool, this is going to be helpful. But it's picked up, 10, 12 views on YouTube. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm paying for all of this. What is going on? But again, part of the process, it's finding out what works. And I suppose it all depends on what your angle's at. For me, the podcast is to obviously engage with people, get people thinking, oh, damn, like they're talking about that kind of stuff. I'm okay to talk about that kind of stuff too. I can be unfiltered as well. If people want to talk to me on the back end of it because they feel like what I've said, I might be the right person to speak to on the back end of it, sick. If I know anyone else who could help them, great. That's my angle on it. But at the same time, like, yeah, it can be very, very upsetting when you post a video and it just doesn't do well. And it's like... But this is another funny thing. I would post a video on Instagram and I also post it on TikTok just to see what works better. TikTok might be amazing. Instagram's terrible.
Oh.
And then you flip it around. Instagram, great. TikTok, nothing. I don't know.
Yeah. That's what I mean. You can just go down a black hole trying to understand it. It's not even, not even worth it.
Just keep posting it and just trying to add value is my angle.
Yeah.
What about your angle? Is it similar?
I think it's the same. Yeah. I think a lot of my content is inspired by things that I've been through myself. Like, I feel like there's a lot of stuff out there, but I'm very much like, if I haven't gone through it myself, I don't feel comfortable talking about it in that. Because I want to be able to add value through my own experiences. So if I've gone through something or I've, experienced something and I've learned from it, then I want to be able to talk about it and just kind of offer my insight. So a lot of it is stuff that I've been through. I also just find it easier to talk about that way, right? Like, a lot of the stuff that I spoke about on anxiety and mental health is very much everything that I've been through. My divorce, obviously, dating, relationships, breakups. I actually just realized that my Instagram page is more like, what my therapist would listen to. Yeah, it's very much like that.
I feel you. Do you think also on the back end of that, like, people on social media should be more private in regards to what's going on in their personal life, or they should showcase that more? Because I had this conversation with someone and it got me thinking, like, people always talk about we only see 10% of our lives on social media. Great, okay, cool, sweet. But at the same time, there's this element of, like, you don't tell the world everything. We've had conversations outside of this that won't go up on your social media. Do you think people should follow that mentality, or should we just showcase everything that's going on if we're trying to influence and inspire, etc., etc.?
Oh, that's a good question, I mean, I would, give such a typical answer and just be like, everyone should do what they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
But I think that it's healthy to keep some bits to yourself.
Yeah.
I think that, a lot of my life, I don't really talk about my full-time job. I don't really talk about work. I don't really talk about, private stuff like
you don't dig into the
stuff.
Personal stuff. It's more like the events and the history.
Yeah, it's very much like that. And I think that's more so because I like to keep it separate. I think that the way that I see Instagram is just an outlet for me. I don't see Instagram as my life in that sense, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like if I then start bringing all of these bits of my day-to-day life into Instagram, then Instagram more and more starts becoming my life, which I think is quite unhealthy, which is why I'm probably really rubbish at like doing stories. I always say, I'm like, I haven't posted in a couple of days. What do I have to post? I've not even done anything. I've gone to work and I've come home and had dinner and watched TV. What do I post? But yeah, I think it's definitely healthy to keep some bits to yourself. I think it's nice to have that. I think also, with social media, everyone always has an opinion.
Yeah.
And I think that if you put something out there and someone, you get trolled or someone has a negative opinion, that can really affect you. And so I think it's nice to kind of have that control over what people can have an opinion on.
Yeah, nah, I agree. Because I feel like I may talk about me dating in generically, but I won't possibly go into like the finer details. Maybe on the podcast, I might go into like certain avenues, but I won't actually tell everyone everything. And I did this one episode back at the start of the year. It was a bit of a weird, difficult time, and I recorded it, had it all edited up, and I sent it to my boys for review. And they said to me, bro, I'm not gonna lie, it's sick, but I think it's very, very, very personal, and maybe you should keep some of that stuff private. And I was a bit like, all right, cool, I'll take it on board. And I never posted it, but it just got me thinking, should I really talk about that kind of more finer detailed stuff into like and raise awareness in regards to like, yo, I'm actually going through like a bit of a weird time right now. Maybe by me sharing this and showing that it's okay to share this, it's okay to be vulnerable and really like be personal with this stuff, how much real value it's going to add for someone who's really going through that as well.
See, I think that would add a lot of value.
I think so too, but I felt like maybe the way I was projecting it or the finer details into it, they were just saying, yeah, maybe you should stay away from that. It was quite deep, quite dark, I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
But
I think it's definitely good to, okay, so when I talk about my divorce, for example, when I talk about stuff, it's all based on real experiences or things that I've experienced and gone through. And the reason I talk about it, and I won't go into necessarily loads and loads of detail, I'll just talk about it from a very high level. But it's more so that if anyone else is in that situation and going through it, they can know that, I also went through it and I got through it.
Yeah.
And it does really, like, people do relate to that a lot. And I think it's definitely important to talk about it. But like you said, I always avoid certain details when I'm talking about things. Like when I talk about my divorce, I get so many questions, like really specific questions about my divorce or my marriage. And I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and talk about this. Like a lot of it is private, but also just like out of respect for, my ex-husband and his family and things like that. I will never talk specifically about, oh, so-and-so said this or so. Like, that's not cool.
Yeah.
And I think it's fine to touch on it and talk about it. And it's definitely good to share to help people through things.
It's finding that balance.
Yeah. Finding that balance is hard though. Finding that balance is really difficult.
I sometimes will look at someone posting stuff and I'm like, oh, great, you're with your girlfriend. Great, you're with your boyfriend. Fantastic. Cool. And I can see how, albeit it looks amazing, for other people watching that, they could be like even more insecure on the back end of like, you seem so happy right now, despite the fact you two argue behind the scenes and no one ever sees that shit. But like, it can really like be quite demoralizing. And at the same time, if you're constantly being quite generic about things, it's a case of like, where's your substance to this? Because there's no real added value in what you're trying to say. So I feel like there is that kind of like fine balance, but where do you draw that line?
Do you know what? I've just had like a light bulb moment of where I draw the line. Is that I talk about my feelings and things that I've gone through, but I will never talk about other people's feelings or like things that other people have gone through, because I can't talk about that. I can't talk about, how that left them feeling or things that they said, but I'll talk about it from my own point of view.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I draw the line. And then I will get personal and I will talk about, things that I've gone through. But yeah, I think it's very much kind of making sure that you're not then talking about other people in that way too.
It's a weird one, because like I would never want to talk on behalf of, let's say, an ex or someone that I've seen. Again, make it more relevant from my perspective. But yeah, I can. It's a weird one. It's a weird one. Social media is very, very strange. It is very, very strange.
It is, isn't it?
It's a lovely place, don't get me wrong, but it can be very, very bad at the same time as well.
Yeah, I think it can be quite toxic as well sometimes.
But you love doing it.
Do you know what? I see it in a very different way. If nobody watched my content, right? And I know I said earlier I get disheartened, I don't get as many views. No, but the joy for me isn't in that.
Yeah.
The joy for me is in creating it.
Yeah.
So like even today I was up like,
tell him.
Yeah, I turned up here with my suitcase because I was shooting outfit content this morning at like 7 a.m. And that honestly was painful. Like when I woke up this morning, I was like, oh, I'm so tired. But literally the second I was out of the door, I was excited.
Yeah.
I was like, this is like my little day out. I can go and do this. And I genuinely have so much fun doing it. And that is how my page started, right? It started with, me doing a lot of the fashion and styling content because I've always loved it, or like my makeup videos or anything like that. It's the creative process that I love, because genuinely, if I didn't love this, I wouldn't do it. Because who has time to spend this much time doing things they don't love?
And I think we either touched on it on the pod or on the way home. All the stuff that you do when you do like your content shooting for outfits and stuff, you're not getting paid to do any of this kind of stuff. No. You generally go out because you just want to showcase, this is what I'm wearing today. This is a great outfit for work. This is a great outfit for a night out, etc., etc. I think that's quite lit, because I would have loved to have done something like that. I just don't necessarily have the time and patience to put myself out there to do the hours that you do and casually just get changed behind
a pillar. No, literally, I think there's this big misconception, like, just to clarify, I don't get paid for any Instagram stuff I do, really, to be honest. Like, very, very rarely will I do like a paid collab if I'm like, going to a wedding or have something fancy. I don't do paid work. Everything I do is just for fun. So like all of my outfits that I've shot today, no one's paying me to wear those. I wish they were, but no one is paying me to wear those. No one is paying me to like make my talking videos. Like all of it is just in my own time that I like, put together what I'm going to say. I record it all, I edit it all, even all my outfit stuff. It's just for fun. Like for me, that has always been something that I've loved. And I think, especially during COVID, when I needed, I had so much time on my hands and I was like in lockdown by myself. And that's when I then went back into the whole like styling and videos and stuff. And it just made me so happy. And I thought, this is one thing in my life that I love doing. And it's just something that I'm going to keep doing. And even the outfit content on Instagram, like it doesn't do as well as like the talking videos. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop going out at like 6 a.m. to go and get the pictures, because I still love doing it.
100%. Now, because I used to try and kind of like do something similar before, and then I realized that I was possibly trying to just chase clout by doing that.
Yeah.
Like, why am I going out to buy outfits just to just go pose somewhere? And like for me personally, like I was doing it to get likes, and then I realized that's not me. And then when I started putting out more meaningful content out versus like the motivational stuff, albeit that possibly didn't get the views initially to begin with, the DMs that came back from it was, yo,
you're making an impact. Yeah.
Especially from like friends you ain't seen in like 10 years, or uni mates are like, bro, whatever you're doing right now, keep doing it. You're adding so much value. You may not realize it, but like this hit home for me today. And I'm like, oh, thank you, bro. That means a lot.
But this, do you know what? And I think this is what comes across well on Instagram. And this is where I think people are smart on Instagram. And I don't mean content creators. I mean the audience are smart. Like they can pick up on who is authentic, who isn't authentic through the content. When you're doing something, and I always say this, like when you're doing something, if it doesn't come across as you people are going to pick up on it. Like how many times do you watch something on Instagram and you're like, what have I, like who is that person? What are they doing? What are you doing?
That is not you.
And I just think like, well, we're all the same. We're all consumers of Instagram, right? So it's like, I wouldn't want to put something out there that I myself would look at and just cringe at, or like look at and be like, what are you doing? You wouldn't normally do this, so why are you suddenly doing it? No,
I always say like and especially with the podcast as well, like I love to make sure I'm looking like quite fly and quite fresh for it, but at the same time, like I got my hair cut last week, so I feel like a bit ruggedy today, and that's why the hat's on versus like leaving the hair up. But like it's, be yourself, be true to who you are, because 99% of the time you're not always looking 100%, so don't just showcase that. And if I try and relay that back very randomly into like dating and stuff, I feel like if you ever are using an app and you see photos of people and it's like, oh great, they look amazing, that person looks hot, he's great body, etc., all of that stuff, whenever I used to like go down this process and like then get them on Instagram, you see like that photo was taken like 2-3 years ago, and you're like to yourself, why are you doing that? Show me what you really look like right now. Like, be authentic, be real. I'd rather you be honest versus like trying to get someone just to like you based on who you were once upon a time ago. It adds no value. And like, I'm all for people just being truly themselves, and I normally like engage with people's content who's stuck to their morals or stuck to their values or stuck to that kind of same niche consistently versus just trying to aesthetically please.
Yeah.
Like on my explore page, I'm just saying, I'm getting all of these models turned on. I'm like, why? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, I'm liking motivational stuff. I'm liking people doing some like engaging kind of reels and that. But it's weird. And then when you look at it, you're thinking to yourself, I've got all of these pictures of people who are, when I say people, women, Dubai, all of these fancy places in these great outfits and stuff. And I'm like, that is going to mess up generally majority of women who feel like they need to look like that.
Yeah. It's
so demoralizing. And I don't see it from a guy's perspective. I ain't got like abs all over my explore page, etc. But like, it can be quite, I presume, very traumatic if you're in that boat where you feel like she's a 10 out of 10. Where am I on that scale?
Oh, 100%. Like, let me tell you, the amount of days that I have just felt like really rubbish about myself, right? Like I've been bloated, or I've just like not been to the gym that week, or I've just felt like really low self-esteem. And then you go on Instagram and like you said, there's like a 10 out of 10 girl there. Oh my God, it just makes me feel even worse than I already felt, right? And that's because, I mean, naturally we do compare ourselves, right, to what we see online. And I think this is where the whole toxic aspect comes into it, is that like, if you're feeling rubbish about yourself, there are things that you can see that make you feel worse about yourself. And I think as a woman, there is definitely so much on Instagram about like, oh, you have like having to look a certain way, or having to be like, you know, having to, you know, have a certain waist size or a certain clothes size to be desirable and whatnot. And it's just exhausting.
Yeah,
like it's exhausting. And I feel like every month, right, let's be honest, as women, our bodies change. Like the amount, I'm like, okay, yeah, this week I'm not bloated. Oh, this week I'm bloated. And like, it's tiring enough as it is without having to then compare it to, you know, perfect bodies that you see online.
100%. Like, I know when I'm about to go on a holiday, I'm going to try and trim up a little bit. But best believe, like, those few photos I take out there, that's not me throughout the whole year. Honestly, I'm going back to that standard bad diet, etc. and stuff. And
forget about the whole year. The first few days of the holiday.
Yeah,
I'm like, when I went to Italy, oh my God, I think like the first 2 days, I was like, okay, yeah, we're good. After that, I'm sorry, I'd eaten so much pasta. I drank so much like red wine and limoncello. And I was like, yeah, I'm bloated now. I'm bloated for the rest of the week. But to be fair, I do plan my outfits so that they get baggier as we go through the week. So I'm like, I know I'm going to have a holiday bloat, so it's fine.
But you know, it is nuts. And it's that whole space, it got me thinking, because we started the conversation talking about like toxicity and narcissistic traits that have come back from, like, say, the South Asian community. And if you look about traditionally, it was based on what was going on in your community, right? I think nowadays our community is what we see on social media. Yeah. So naturally we feel like we still need to catch up or keep up to what everyone else is doing. And it's like, you really don't have to. But at the same time, how would you recommend people switch that off? I.e. no longer feeling like they need to start comparing themselves to other people. Because I feel like sometimes I still may do in certain elements, but I think I love myself enough to realize that, yeah, like, that's cool. That looks nice. Yeah, great. That's just not me, unfortunately. It is what it is.
You literally touched on it there, right? It's having that really strong sense of self so that you love yourself, right? You love everything about your life. Actually, you might not love everything about your life, but you love enough about your life to not then be kind of negatively influenced by what you see online. And that is hard. Like, let me tell you, like, when you're having a bad day, I feel like, you know, a lot of the time I'll be like very happy with, you know, my life, very happy with where I'm at, like I'm good. But then one day I'll wake up and I'm like, oh, I'm just like not feeling great, or I'm feeling a bit low, or I'm hormonal, or whatever it is. And then you can see something and it just like triggers you. And it's almost like you forget all of like the good stuff, right? You forget all of that confidence and you're kind of taken back into that slump to be like, oh, why don't I look like this? Or, you know, why don't I feel like that? Or I don't have this, or I don't have that, or I haven't achieved whatever. But it's like 90% of the time I'm good. Yeah. But you can still get triggered. But it's about like remembering, okay, wait a minute. Like, what are all the great things about you? What about all the great things about your life? Look at everything you've achieved, like, you know, in your career or over the however long. And I think it's drawing back on yourself. Like, every single person is unique.
Yeah.
We all have amazing things about us, right? And something that you might see in someone else might see in you, right? But you just don't see it. And that's why it's like having that confidence in yourself.
Yeah. I feel like if you surround yourself with people who also like reciprocate that energy, it serves you well. Like, I think like the last person I was seeing like gave that back in like such great capacity. It was like, yo, I've never kind of really experienced it in this way. Like, I may be insecure about certain things and all of a sudden you've just said it's okay. I'm like, yo, that does behave yourself now, man. You can't be saying it's not okay. She's like, no, honestly, it's fine. Like, it is what it is. Can't do anything about it. And I'm like, right, you accept me for who I am. Jeez.
You know what, that is let me tell you, accepting yourself for who you are is the biggest win in life.
Yeah, I accept
That
it.
is it.
But I've got like, I think the doctors don't really like give it like a proper term. It's like psoriasis kind of stuff. So it's like eczema, but and like it progressed and then disappeared over the years. And I'm not sure if it's stress related or what, but I had it very bad, right? And I had it on my face and my beard, and I was like, can't really see it. But all of a sudden, I must have just been like just doing that one day, and all my face has gone red. I'm thinking, what the? This isn't cool at all.
Yeah.
So obviously, I've got like the creams and the moisturizers and stuff right now. But like every time I'd see this person, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, but it's not fine. But it is. Like, you're not done it on purpose.
Yeah.
And I've accepted it. Like, I can't change it. I've got stuff I can use, and I'm going to do that, obviously. But the fact that you've just said to me right now that that's cool, like, nah, you're a lovely person for that. Like, I respect that highly, because I know when I was young, don't get me wrong, I was an idiot. If you ever saw something quite, like, unusual, what's that kind of thing? Or, like, if you're out in public and you see something which doesn't fit, let's say, the status quo, you might look twice and be like, But the fact that this doesn't look normal right now and you've just been cool with me, nah. Oh, stop it. Stop it. Nah. I feel like if more people could be like that, it'd be a big
the world
game
would be a
changer.
better place. Yeah.
But it's trying to get there.
I know. I think I think that is the nicest thing, is being accepted. Someone accepting you for what you think is your flaw.
Yeah.
Because then it's just like, oh, wait a minute. Someone else doesn't see me in the way that I think they're going to see me.
Yeah.
Right. And that in itself then helps you kind of be nicer to yourself as well, right?
No, it is. And going back to this whole comparisons in regards to what people used to do and why we still do it now, I feel like when I look at myself as an example, I like my journey in terms of going back into working full time and like doing coaching and stuff on the side. I realized that I think in my whole career, despite the fact I made some great work colleagues, great friends, the best time I had, albeit it was during COVID, was just fully just trying to just make a business out of coaching. Like random conversations with people all over the world, and like having someone cry and like you don't even know them, like a 50-year-old man or like whatever, women too, and then like literally, and it's like I possibly just made a difference right now.
Yeah.
But I've now gone back into work because the society tells me that, I need to get a house soon because that's the next step in the process. And to get a house, you need a mortgage and you can do all of this stuff. But the safer way is, look, got your ACA, your child, run it that way. All right, okay, cool, sweet, fine. Doing that. And I'm saying to myself, am I really as happy as I really can be? Like, I get more excitement when I come home at 8, 9 in the evening to do a coaching call than possibly my day-to-day activities. I get more excitement when I get to just do me, i.e. go home early on a Friday night just so I can play golf the next day. Like, why am I not adding more of that into my life right now? Why am I still possibly trying to do what possibly society tells me to do? And I feel like if we can get to a point where we can stop dwelling on what people say and just doing what works for you, everything else just becomes less of an issue.
100%. Like, that is honestly, when you stop caring about what other people say, it is the most freeing feeling.
Yeah.
Like, it's a weight off your shoulders. You just think, actually, hold on. You can literally do what you want, right? And not worry about that judgment. And that is genuinely life-changing. And I think that took me years. I think I spent all of my 20s just worried about what people were going to say. Everything was, my wedding was about, well, what will people say? My marriage was about, what will people say? I didn't get divorced for years because I was like, what will people say? And now I'm just at the point where I'm like, I don't care what people say. Like, people are always going to say things. You're never going to please everyone, right? You're never going to be everyone's cup of tea, and that's fine. You don't need to be. And I think it's like, if you're doing what makes you happy at the end of the day, then who even cares?
It's scary because the society pressures do put you in a place where you do uncomfortable things. And it's like, I would hate to possibly continue working a job which provides an element of fulfillment, i.e. financially, but long term and everything else, it's not entirely great. I think I was listening to a Gary Vee video, and he said something that he believes like within like 10, 20 years time, the new normal is going to be people working a job where they get paid $60,000 to $70,000, whatever that is. But everyone's going to love what they do versus having to chase the six figures for the sake of it. And it got me thinking, like, well, if you want to live a lavish lifestyle, if you want certain things, all right, you can work for it in certain capacities, but you don't necessarily have to do what this picture tells you to do.
Yeah.
I'm a chartered accountant. It doesn't mean I have to do finance the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know, if I want to become a PT, all right, go study to become a PT and make a business there if you want to. If I say, you know what, I just want to go live in Thailand and just own a shop there and do that because you know what, the sun, the weather, the environment, the food, that's me. Go do that if you want. If I want to try and become a professional golfer, that's probably a bit out of my lane right now. But it's do the things that really benefit you versus not. And I think I've had this major realization over like the last few months in regards to what's really going to serve me moving forward is just stop thinking about what everyone else is going to say.
Yeah.
I listened to a Stephen Bartlett episode. I think he interviewed this guy called Ramit Sethi. So he's some finance expert. He's got a Netflix series as well. And he just kept talking about finance. And one of the things he said that people get so drawn into the fact that, having a property is like the best thing. Everyone in the South Asian community will say that. Oh, this son, he's got a house now and got a flat. Yeah, shut up, man. But at the same time, like, great, cool, sweet. Good for them, right? Maybe they've got financial backing or they've been saving or whatever it is. Good news. But at the same time, is it the best financial decision? If you try and weigh it up, if you're spending, let's say, nearly 60-70% of your salary on your rent alone, or your mortgage alone versus anything else that comes in, and the flip side of it is that if you rented, you possibly spend maybe 30% of that, and the rest could go into savings or investments and stuff like that. What's the better financial decision?
Yeah.
Having some sort of brick and mortar or something which could make you more in the long term, and you possibly get to live somewhere a bit more lavish where you're not necessarily having to worry about too many bills, etc. It was mad, and it got me thinking. Like, now I'm like, do I really need to be doing what I'm doing right now? Do I need to just keep plowing away at this? Like, either you come up and you tell your work, this is the kind of avenue I definitely want to tackle moving forward. What does that look like?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, then where can you go find it?
Yeah.
And if you can't find it there or you can't find it anywhere, can you do it yourself?
Yeah.
And that would possibly make me a lot more happier versus not having to be like stuck in this job. And it's nuts because then it adds even more pressure when you get married and stuff and you're in a relationship. You got to think, oh man, I got to pay for this, I got to pay for that. Like, well, find someone who's on your vibe then.
Yeah.
Don't find someone who just wants the materialistic things.
Yeah. But that's the thing, right? There's one pressure after another. Like you said, there's a pressure to buy a house. There's a pressure to have a full-time job, a 9 to 5. There's pressure for this. There's pressure to then have kids. There's pressure to then have another one. Like, where does it stop? It doesn't just stop at, you have to get married. You have to get married. Because as soon as you get married, it's like, well, when are you having kids? When are you having another one? Well, when are you? It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. And that's why I just think, like, if you live your life to satisfy other people or to just because you're getting pressure, and it is hard, like, don't get me wrong, that marriage pressure is awful, right? Because if you're not in a relationship or if you're already feeling like lonely or you're feeling insecure and you're worried you're not going to find anyone, then getting that pressure from other people makes you feel so much more worse.
Trust.
And it makes you feel awful and it makes you feel like even more lonely. And so I get that it is so difficult, but marriage pressure isn't where it stops.
No.
Like, you give into that, they're going to be going with something else.
I like when it comes to, like, before I'm nowhere near getting married, but like when I speak to like women and they tell me about like their professions and stuff, if I get and like a vibe that you're really passionate about what you're doing, I love that energy.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't really care what you're earning right now. That doesn't mean anything to me. Like, you're not trying to showcase anything fantastic here. You're just telling me that you love working with kids, or you love caring for people, or you love this finance role that you're in because you get to do X, Y, Z. Mad. I like that kind of stuff versus you saying, oh, I'm this and that. And I'm like, yeah, great, cool. Do you enjoy it? It's all right. What are you talking about? Talking about? It's frustrating. It's frustrating. Like, my biggest issue over the last, I say, like 3 years is that I've never owned my own car.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I've got like a couple of cars in the household, so never really have to worry about it. And plus, I work in the city.
Yeah.
So why do I need to have a car? Because I don't drive to the station.
You don't.
I'm close enough to walk it there, or public transport in the worst case scenario. And I need it to go to and from the gym, and now on the weekends to go and play golf and random occasions. But I have been umming and ahhing about buying a car, and I'm thinking, should I get it? Should I not? Should I get it? My dad's like, just get a runaround. Get a runaround. You don't need anything. It's fine. Like, if you really want something like an upgrade, just get something that's quite chilled. And I'm like, yeah, but Dad, I feel like I should have a nice car right now. And he's like, but you're not driving it. What are you gonna do? If you lease it, it doesn't make no financial sense. They're gonna take your money because you're not gonna get anything cheap. You're not doing any of the miles required.
Yeah.
You don't need the flash. I'm like, but Dad, I feel like I want it. I'm like, why? I'm like,
because you think you should, because of what other people are.
Yeah, it's so
Let
bad.
me tell you, I had a nice fancy car and I barely drove it because, like you said, I work in the city. I'm literally a 2-minute walk from a tube station. I didn't need a car. It was the biggest waste of money. I got rid of it in 2019, thankfully, just before COVID lockdown. And it's the best decision. Since then, I've never even had a moment where I'm like, oh, I wish I had a car or I need a car. Like, nah, I will just turn up on the bus. I will turn up on the train.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, it doesn't make sense, you know.
Worst case scenario, Uber. But like,
there's always a way to get somewhere.
there is always a way. It's yeah. I don't know. It's
like a comparison thing, isn't it? Where you're like, oh, my mate's driving like a Tesla.
It is that thing. Mate's driving a Tesla. And you're like, should I be on that same band?
Yeah. And then you're like, oh, no way. I didn't turn up in a fancy car. I turned up on public transport. So I will look like a bum.
But at the same time, like, it's annoying because it's like, I feel like because we care so much about what people are going to say, we actually then devalue what our thought processes are and possibly taking public transport because it's convenient. Why do I need to spend X, Y, and Z? Why do I need to Uber it somewhere to the station because I have the bus stop right outside my house?
I love the bus, by the way. Can we talk about how great the bus is? Because I feel like, sorry, people don't, I love that the bus is so convenient. It's literally every 2 minutes takes me wherever I need to go. Like if I can't get the tube, it's actually genuinely great. And I just don't see the need to like, you know, get in a car to drive 2 minutes down the road.
Yeah.
Or like.
And then pay for parking.
Yeah. Oh,
financially, it makes no sense. But at the same time, like, yeah, I feel like when we try to then invalidate what works for us because it doesn't work for them or they would never do that, we then put ourselves in a scenario where we need to like try and catch up.
Yeah.
It sucks so bad. It's so like, and I feel like whenever I've gone to, this is another fantastic, interesting thing. I've had people like compliment me in their own weird ways, and they've said stuff like, yeah, you don't dress or you don't come across as the standard Indian guy kind of thing. Like, firstly, you're kind of tall, great, cool, but like, you're very out there. And I'm like, no, I'm very me. Like, no, but like, you're not dressed a certain way and a cardigan and stuff. Like, you're flamboyant. You've got the colors going over. I'm like, yeah, I'm being me. And it's like, no, I like that. That's quite cool. Like, guys should be more like you. And I'm like, well, that's up for them. But it's scary when you get put into that scenario where like you have to like try and play catch up.
Yeah.
I had a few of my friends buy like some nice watches. And I'm I'd love to have a nice watch, but at the same time, like, I'm a fitness guy. Apple Watch does me wonders. Now, for my birthday coming up, do I want to treat myself to a nice watch? Possibly, because it would be nice. But that's more of a personal thing versus like when all my friends started getting watches, I was like, should I not? Should I not? Can I even afford it right now? Is it justifiable? And if I try and flip the script on it, I'm like, I do a podcast. None of them do.
Yeah.
They're not trying to play catch up with me. So why am I trying to think that I need to be? No, yeah, you don't need any of that kind of stuff. But it's strange because people are drawn in so badly into like what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, massively. And that's where it's like, oh, everyone around me is getting married, I need to be getting married. Everyone around me is having kids, I need to be having kids. You know, and because you do feel like you're being left behind, right? Even though you're not.
Yeah.
You're not at all. There's no like timeline on when you should do anything, but you feel that way, right? And then that can make you feel worse. And it kind of just, you know, as more and more people get married, or you feel like everyone else is moving on with their life and you're stuck. And it is that sense of catch up, right?
Yeah.
Like comparing yourself to other people and feeling like you have to do more.
I hate it when a client will come up to me and feel like they're stuck. And I'm like, you're not. You're just on your own journey.
Yeah.
You possibly were in the best journey for yourself in terms of relationship going on, but you had a breakup, and that's okay. Because you realized earlier on that this guy wasn't going to be the right one for you, or this woman wasn't going to serve you. And that's okay. Like, it wasn't just going to work out. You were incompatible, and it took you a while to realize that. That's fine. You're starting again from scratch. Cool. Dating right now is a bit more difficult than what it used to be, but take that with a pinch of salt. Like, you now also have different options to what was back then. You have multiple options. You can be on any kind of app. You can go to all of these events and people talk about it quite freely. So it's like, count yourself also kind of lucky as well. Don't just be quite drawn into the fact that you are missing out because your best friend got married.
Yeah.
Or they now are in this different stage of life. Yeah, because that works for them right now on their journey. On your journey, getting married right now wasn't part of the plan.
Yeah.
It's going to happen in a couple of years' time. But you might have kids before them.
Yeah.
Or what happens in a
exactly.
situation where people are married right now and they can't have kids.
Yeah.
And then like, well, you get married years later and you have kids, and are you like then still having this comparison stuff? Nah, like people are doing their own thing and it's what works for them.
Yeah.
I do dislike when people feel like they need to try and like be where someone else is at. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you don't. You really don't.
Yeah.
Stop it. But
Yeah. No,
Stop.
I agree with you. Like you said, everyone is on their own journey. Everyone is on their own timing. Like, for example, I get marriage pressure. I get, told, when are you going to get married? When are you getting married? I've already been married. So, like, what does this just, it continues until I, like, decide to get married again and stay married?
Yeah.
Like, how does it work? But also, it's like, I got married. Didn't really work for me. As in, I don't really think it's, like, the be-all and end-all of life. Which is why I have this view now where I'm like, yeah, one day I would like to get married again. But it's not like I have to get married and I have to, like, do this ASAP because, I'm 35 and whatnot.
You don't look it.
Oh, thanks. Well, that SPF, wear SPF, guys. But yeah, now I'm just like, if it happens, it happens. But it's not even about that. It's about like being with the right person.
Yeah.
That's actually more important than literally just signing a piece of paper to say you're married.
Nah.
That actually doesn't mean anything.
I think like, and maybe you call me if it's backwards, but like within our community, like the timeline is proposed to be relationship, engagement, get married, then have kids. I don't feel like it needs to go in that order personally. Yeah. I feel like anything could happen. If you're with the person you want to be with and you have kids and marriage then comes along later, that's not a problem. But we're so ingrained that we need to follow this script, these rules. And it's like, no, we don't.
Yeah.
Do you kind of thing. But yeah, I do feel like when people get to a place where they start loving themselves truly, and I feel this is where it comes down to, where all the comparisons come into it, all of the societal pressure comes into the fact that you generally don't love yourself enough to actually stand for your own values.
Yeah.
I do, and sometimes it's looked down upon or looked like I'm quite arrogant or quite rude or like you're not really respectful. And I'm like, no, I respect you highly. I just want you to respect me for where I stand to.
Yeah.
And I feel like that gets, well, this is where the narcissism comes into it. And it's like, well, you shouldn't really be talking like that. Like, I'm your uncle, I'm your aunt. And cool, sweet. Keep it that way because we're going to have a difficult conversation right now. You're not going to agree with me. I'm not going to agree with you. So just leave it as that. But
yeah,
it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
I agree. Do you know, actually on that, I did a podcast like the other week and we spoke about this whole, when you go to like family events and everyone's like, oh, so, how's your dating life going? Are you seeing someone? Yeah. It's just had the most awkward question. You just like, why are you asking me this? I don't even speak to you.
Yeah.
The person that I was doing a podcast with was like, oh, they have someone had told them a really great response so that, when someone comes up to you and says, oh, how's your dating life going? You respond back and say, how's your marriage?
That's actually quite fire. I like that.
Because like nobody ever, it's literally the same principle, right? Yeah. You're asking me about my dating life, which is a very personal part of my life.
Yeah.
But you will never sit there and talk about how your marriage is going.
That's actually fire. I like that.
Yeah. So if anyone listening, if you get asked how your dating life's going by some annoying auntie or uncle or just anyone, just anyone that's prying into your life, just flip it back and be like, how's your marriage going? And if they're a bit taken aback, just like, oh, sorry, you're not comfortable speaking about that. What makes you think I'm comfortable speaking about my dating life?
It was funny. I went to my work colleague's wedding and like squad antics from work, quite cool. Sick wedding, good fun. Get there, night before the wedding is, and his family are there, and he's introducing us to his family and stuff. Auntie straight away come up to me and be like, oh, so you're Patel, yeah? And you're an accountant? I was like,
oh, here we go. She's setting you up in your head already.
Mate. Or I'm thinking, I don't even know who's at this wedding tomorrow, but I'm going to, throughout the whole of the next day, kept coming up to me. So you're the Patel? Oh, okay, yeah. I'm like, auntie, man, I don't even know you. Like, we're not even related out here. But
Honestly,
all right.
it's in their DNA, the aunties, man. They
It's
love it.
it's cute.
Yeah.
It's cute. I understand why possibly they are trying to do it, but I think at the same time it's a bit like stay in your lane. Like you're better off rather than ask me how my dating life's going. Come up to me and ask me how are you in general.
Yeah.
Is everything all right?
Which they'll never do because they don't care
Yeah.
about that.
And I feel like if you can get to a place where you deep it a little bit more, they may be a bit more on the back seat. And I feel like this is also another thing which is misunderstood with the older generation. It may come across that they don't understand, but I feel like the way you communicate that across will change that.
Yeah.
So I've spoken to a lot of my older relatives and made it very clear around like my intentions and why I want to do X, Y, and Z. Like my sister's gone traveling. That may not have been the norm once upon a time, but she's out in New Zealand living her best life right now. I wanted to do that once upon a time, and it was like, should you not kind of thing. And it's like, you won't realize that if I came up to you and I said to you, I feel trapped in my work, I feel trapped in this relationship I'm in, I feel like nothing seems right here, I dislike the weather, I just dislike the routine I've got, I just need to take a break, etc. If I deeped it how down I really was, maybe you may understand that this is why I'm doing X, Y, and Z. So you may not agree with why I then decide to leave or why I decide to walk away from this relationship I'm in, but just accept the fact that I'm not happy.
Yeah.
Hence why I need to do X, Y, and Z. And I feel like that conversation doesn't happen because we're so scared about what people are going to say, i.e. our close family relatives and like it then adds more fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
You can easily get yourself out of that situation and remove that internal pressure by just being more open and honest.
Yeah.
So every client that comes up to me wants to work on their relationships and stuff. It ends up going back to the fact of who's actually putting this pressure on you? Mum or dad? Have you actually spoken to them about it? No. So when are you going to? I'm scared, I'm fearful, X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, you're just telling me the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Until you do that first, everything else is going to be a lot harder.
But it's hard to get past that feeling as well, isn't it? That fear, I guess. If you've never opened up to them in your life, right? And you're like 30, 40 years on and you're like, okay, I need to have this conversation. Like that is completely unknown territory, right?
Of
and that's
course.
what's so hard to get past that initial I mean, once you do it once, it's fine, but
Yeah.
it's just getting past that initial bit.
Of course, but then the flip question I'd ask on the back end of that is, so how many more years do you want to continue like this? Because what you won't realize is that when their time is gone, you're still going to feel the same way.
Yeah.
You haven't made peace with the fact that you feel pressured, you feel insecure, you feel ugly. I have had people come up to me and tell me that despite the fact of transformations they've gone through in regards to their appearance, their careers, just their general confidence, they still feel so put back on a pedestal based on what happened when they were 10 or 12. And I'm like, you haven't made peace with that.
Yeah.
The longer you leave it, it's just going to continue. When I have like a woman client of mine come up to me and tell me, look, the same thing happens in dating over and over again. And I'm like, what you don't realize is that you're still bringing on the pressure. You go into that date thinking about what your dad's going to say about this.
Yeah.
You worry about what these aunties and uncles are going to say and like how quick this marriage is going to get to a stage where like kids will come and etc. etc. And I'm like, you bring all that pressure there. You can't even give your full energy towards this date right now.
Yeah.
You're trying to just rush that process before you even realize whether or not you're on the same wavelength.
Yeah, it's true.
And then you get attached because he gives you a little bit of attention and all of a sudden you're like, oh no, now he doesn't want it. And it's like, yeah, you are not being you right now. You're not actually trying to get to know him. You are getting to know him because of them.
Yeah, through other people's opinions. It's true.
It's quite draining, quite traumatic as well when it continues and continues and continues, and you see yourself you're in the same boat. And until you take yourself out of that, i.e. doing more of the deeper work first, you're going to always be stuck in this position where you're constantly trying to please, despite the fact you don't realize you're trying to do that.
Yeah.
It's mad.
It's like inherent in it. I feel like even, especially in the South Asian community, people pleasing is like one of the first things you were like taught when you were younger. It's like, oh no, we have to do this, we have to do that. It's for other people. It's for this person, for that person. And even, you know, with your parents, that was people pleasing, trying to get their approval.
Yeah.
It's like ingrained in us.
It's terrible. It's terrible. I was a big people pleaser and I am now, but I do it because I do it for me. I don't do it because you've told me I need to please. Shut up.
Yeah.
Nah, I don't do any of that. But again, people do it because it's the norm, and it doesn't have to be the norm
Yeah.
until you like rewire that. It's a weird place, this world. There's so much promise in regards to what could be so like beautiful on the back end of you just being you, but
People are scared to be them, though. That's the thing. People are scared to be themselves because I don't know if it's just like the world tells us that, like, you know, being us isn't enough or being us isn't okay. Or I don't know if it's like through our own view of ourselves that, like, we don't think we're enough. So why would someone else think we're enough?
yeah, it's. I don't like the fact that we try and be other people, or we try and fit into what other people say we should be, because that then makes us happy. Because I feel like once you actually deep it to an extent, you realize that the person you're looking at in the mirror, they may look glamorous and great right now, but that's not really you.
Yeah.
You know, you're the kind of person that at least that eat junk food. Okay, go eat your junk food then.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you need to be slim. Don't feel like you need to have this particular physique or have these great eyes or aesthetically look a certain way just to be amazing. Because deep down internally, the person you really are is that amazing person.
Yes, I love that. It's so true, though. It's so true.
Jigna, this has been fun. Part 3 definitely going to come through. I don't want to keep you waiting with your busy day and plans ahead. But big thank you. Where can everyone find you again?
Thank you for having me. So everyone can find me on Instagram at Jigna_madeup.
What does made up stand for?
Oh, do you know what?
I want to get this in here as well, because I actually thought it was Jigna_makeup.
It was.
Oh, was it?
It was.
Oh, right. I was thinking to myself, I was going loopy. I was thinking.
No. So years ago, I used to do makeup. Oh, I'm like a professionally trained hair and makeup artist.
Yeah.
Like years ago. So when this is like back when I was married.
Yeah.
So I still worked in banking, but then on the weekends, I used to do hair and makeup clients.
Yeah.
And then when I was going through my divorce, so I had like a whole YouTube channel. It's like full of hair and makeup tutorials. Like I did all of that.
Is that still available?
It's still there if anyone wants to go watch.
We're going to plug that in, you know. She got some
if anyone wants
there.
to go watch it. And then when I was going through my divorce, I stopped doing like all the clients and stuff because I was like, there's just too much going on in my life. And yeah, I stopped it, but I obviously still love like, you know, hair and makeup stuff, which is why I obviously have like makeup videos and stuff on my page. But everyone knew me as Jigna Makeup, right? Because I did used to do that. And then I obviously stopped, and for years I was still Jigna Makeup on Instagram, and I was like, I don't do makeup anymore. But I was obviously doing a lot more of the like styling and the fashion stuff. So I was like, let me change it to made up, because then it's like you're made up, you're dressed up, you're feeling good, you've got like, you know, your outfit or whatever. So then it was still kind of in line with what it was. Yeah. But now made up.
No, fair, but
I want to get to the single Jigna. Yeah. That would be like,
I'd love to do that, but there's too many pre's out there.
Yeah. Do you know what? You'd be surprised. Someone's taken Jigna already, so it's not actually available, unfortunately.
You can try and buy it off them.
I think
you consider that.
I might have to do that.
It could work. But big thank you for coming through. Much appreciated. And I hope you had fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks again for listening. It's been your boy Uncle Pre. It's always a pleasure to be in the studio and record with my guests. I hope you have enjoyed this episode, and if you like stuff like this, please do like, comment and subscribe. It helps me take the podcast to a place where I can definitely bring in more people that are going to resonate with you, whether it's their stories, whether it's their journey, whether it's just something that they're going through right now. So definitely like, comment and subscribe if you haven't already. And much appreciated you staying in here. I love everyone that comes through, and I love all the comments and feedback that I get, so keep that coming through. It's been your boy Uncle Pre, and I'm signing out. Peace.